This is Dean Jackson. Welcome to the More Cheese, Less Whiskers podcast, where each week we focus on applying the 8 profit activators of the breakthrough DNA process to a very specific business. And this week we have a guest, Matt Sellhorst. And what Matt does is he helps boat dealers make more money. And you're going to hear as we do this, one of the things that I work very closely with is real estate agents. And you'll see how anytime you're in a brokering business where you're matching buyers, where you've got something to sell them, and you're also looking for matching people who have something to sell with people who want to buy. There's so many transferable principles here. And so we had a great conversation. We're a little bit over the hour, but you'll see that one of the greatest things we talk about, and you're going to see this as a recurring theme, is the importance of being able to document the actual result that you can provide for the people that you're trying to serve. And we'll see how when we talk about this, the idea of asking the clarifying question, what would you do if you only got paid when your client gets the result? Now, even if that doesn't become the offer that you actually make, just thinking that thought, asking that question, even thinking it silently, is going to change the way that you look at what it is that you do. You're going to change the way that you approach things, because if all of the responsibility for getting the result was on you and your money depended on it, you would treat it very differently. There's a point in the podcast where you're going to hear us talk about that. We're going to go deep into that, and you'll hear the lights come on for Matt, that he treats it differently when we started talking about it depending on getting the result to get his money. So I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. Let me know if you'd like to be a guest on the show. I'd love to talk with you. You can go to morecheeselesswhiskers.com and click on the link that says be a guest. We're helping lots of businesses, lots of different kinds of businesses, and you'll see that there's so many ways to apply the 8 profit activators to the before, during, and after unit of any business. So enjoy this episode. Matt Sellhorst.
Dean Jackson, how are you, sir?
I am good. How are you?
I'm really good. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, awesome. We're recording right now. We're going.
Okay. Well, let's go.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what you do and what's working and what kind of evil schemes we can hatch today.
Sure. That sounds good. Well, I work in the marine industry. I help boat dealers, mainly boat dealers, but some brokers, boat brokers, yacht brokers, and do a little bit with manufacturers. And I help them generate more leads, but more importantly, I help them develop follow-up systems. And kind of my main message is sell more boats at higher margins. That's in a nutshell what I do with those folks, and I do it in a couple of different ways. One of them is I do a 3-day boot camp where I bring them in. And we start, it's not exactly based on the 8 profit activators, but you could apply it. You could apply that to the way I deliver. Who's your target market? What do they look like? How are you going to follow up? What's your message? What's your USP? And then, it's a big purchase, so they're likely not going to make it just on a whim. So you need a follow-up system, and I call it the educational spectrum of a boat buyer. And how do you push them down that educational spectrum? And then, how do you get repeat referral business? And in the depending on the services they offer, service business, aftermarket parts and accessories, gear, tubes and wakeboards and whatnot.
All that kind of stuff. Then, so you got a total system.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So put that all together, and I deliver it in person in a 3-day. I do it virtually versus with an online training. And I also have another program that is how to use online video. That's when I got into the business, online video was something I utilized to generate my own leads, drive my own business, and became very successful with that, with like 500,000 video views in a year. It made the phone ring the way I did it. So I teach that as well as a second online product that's a lot less expensive.
Video.
So what's working is when I get somebody in the program and they implement, they have great success.
That's what I was just going to say. Is it sounds like you've got a system that you can get the result for somebody. That's always a great
absolutely.
first step. How long have you been doing it? I owned a mortgage company way back in the day. Closed it down 08, 09. I decided things were going terrible. I decided to close that down when the mortgage meltdown hit. And I got into the business of selling boats because I grew up, 5 years old. My family got our first boat. And from that point on, I was a boater. That's just always been a part of my life. Where do you live right now?
I live in just outside Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
But I grew up in Nebraska, just boating on tiny little lakes there, and the Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri. But it's always been a part of my life. And so when I had kind of my personal crisis of closing down my very first business, my mortgage company, and starting over from scratch, I said, what do I want to do? And I got into the boat business with the idea that, hey, I had some good systems. I did coaching in the mortgage business. I really enjoyed that concept. So why don't I figure out the boat business and take that coaching? So I got started in, 2009. I got started selling boats with the idea that I would be doing this coaching at some point.
Using that as a laboratory to figure out your stuff. Right?
Exactly. I had never sold a hard product before. I had never done that before. So I needed to figure it out. And frankly, in my bio, I call myself a no boat selling son of a gun when I first started. I wasn't good at it.
Right. I gotcha.
Probably second guessing the hiring choice, but I figured it out. I used a lot of video. I used a lot of testimonials. I used educational marketing. And I just had developed a system that I knew I would be able to implement with other dealers. So it was probably, I would say 2013 that I got my first paying client, which was actually the dealership I worked at. Then I got a couple outside clients. So 2014, I went full time and said, okay, let's make this work at the end of the selling season, 2014. And, it's been going okay. But I just, despite the fact that it's a small market, about 3,000 boat dealers or so in the U.S., maybe another 500 or so up in Canada, despite the smaller market, I haven't got the traction that I know I should be able to get. I can generate leads reasonably well with speaking. I write for the industry journal. I've got a book that I use as a lead generation tool, whether I give it away with the ebook or sell it at, for $5 for the hard book, just shipping. I can generate the leads, but turning those leads into that high ticket item, either online or boot camp, I'm missing something. And I typically feel it's because I'm not explaining what I do well enough.
That's a good chance.
It sounds like they want me to say, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Facebook ad, and I'm going to do I'm going to do X for you, and you're going to get a tangible thing. Instead, I'm saying, hey, I'm going to show you how to build the systems so that you can install it in your business, and then all of those, the Facebook, the newsletter, the whatever it is, you have a framework to build it around, and you have a follow-up system to maximize the results. So that's what I'm missing, and that's what I haven't been able to figure out yet.
How much do you charge for what you've got? The things that people are buying right now, they're buying a 3-day boot camp for how much?
The 3-day boot camp, I've been as low as $10,000, $9,995, and as high as $12,000.
Okay.
That's
So 10 to 12,000
and
for the
that's
boot
them
camp.
coming to me.
Yeah. And then the online, you have an online version of that over several weeks?
Yeah, the online version, I've as low as 2,900, as high as 4,900.
Okay, 2,900 to 4,900. Okay, and is there any those are one-time charge that somebody comes to a 3-day boot camp and that's it, or is there an ongoing relationship, or is there ongoing coaching or consulting?
From then, it's been ongoing sales training. Because one of my clients that went through the boot camp said, "That's great. We're having some great success. I want you to come in." So I set up a quarterly sales training / consulting day where I go down to visit them for 1 day a quarter. For others, it's been just phone consultation. So there's not a defined, join my 497 coaching program, but it's a custom consulting coaching after that.
So so there's the thing. This is something that you may have heard me talk about when people start defining what they do. We're looking through these goggles of, this is what I do. I've got this $10,000 3-day training or $5,000 online training, and how can I do more of that, or how can I convert that better? So let's just take a step back right now and look at, in the during unit, if you were to just have carte blanche to install what you know about the boat dealership business, and they would just get out of your way and let you do what it is that you could do for them, or under your guidance, they do it.
Sure.
What kind of result could you create for somebody? Like, what kind of, if you were, dependent on, you're getting paid when they get the result. I often ask that question, right? What would you do if you only got paid if they get the result? And a lot of that is just, let's take money out of the equation and see, what could you create? What's the biggest result that you could create for somebody?
Well, as far as dollar amount,
however you would define that.
Yeah, it would be, to me, it would be increasing their bottom line by 10 to 20%, if not more, kind of depending on how poorly they're doing some of that stuff. But like, I had one of the clients that went through one of the first, probably month after they went through, they had a boat show, and he called me up and he said, "Matt, listen, we had a guy that walked in, saw one of the things we created in the boot camp is a video, kind of a USP-driven call to action type video with guarantees and that type of thing." And he said he walked in specifically to this boat show to come see me, and he paid the price that we asked. No negotiation. He came in and said, "That's the one I want. How much? Let's do it." And those are the type of results that they're getting. To break it down into a hard number, I would say, on the conservative side, 10 to 20% increase in bottom line. One of the numbers I use for like a dealership that sells 100 boats a year, I use $50,000 to your bottom line is a number that I use in that context. Is that what you're looking for?
That is that's where I'm going, right? Like, so you're saying that, basically your offer right now is, come spend 3 days with me and give me $10,000 or $12,000, and I'll add $50,000 to your bottom line. That's essentially your offer, right? Yeah. So, and that's like on the, how do you have a documented track record of that being true?
I have the anecdotal testimonials. So I have I have that,
and that's
story
where,
from my client,
so
but I
part
don't have
of
a
that
case study.
Yeah, and part of that, right? Part of that the challenge in Profit Activator 3, which is educating and motivating, is that it's about convincing people, right? That this is, nobody's going to do anything until they're convinced that this is that this is likely to happen for them, and when you look at that, having case studies, having documented track record of this is something that goes a long way in easing people's minds. When you look at that 50,000, would you say that is the minimum that you could deliver, or that is the most that you could deliver for somebody, or is that on the high end? Is that in the mid range? What's your confidence level? If I said to you, you're only going to get paid if they get that result, what would be the result that you're so confident in that you could risk your money in that way?
Sure. It's going to depend a little bit on their size.
Okay.
Because, that's going to be a difference. But
do you have variable pricing for your event based on their size?
As of right now, no. It's just been a flat, here's what it is.
Okay.
So, but for in a boat dealership of 100 boats a year, kind of their unit number, that's a bulk of the marketplace is going to be that size or bigger. I would say probably 70% of the marketplace will be there. And that 50,000 is a number that I think I can hit pretty consistently, because I break it down to increase your margins by $500 per boat, or assuming a $5,000 boat sale, increase your sales by 10 units. So that's how I get to that $50,000 number, and I think depending on where they're weak, are they bringing in clients and strictly price-focused, price messaging? Well, then the $500 per unit's easy. If they're bringing them in and they're not converting, they're not following up, which is a major issue that I see, then adding the 10 units is pretty easy as well. If, like you said, if it gets done, if I've got a clean slate of what I paint on the canvas is going to be my system, then that absolutely.
Yeah, see, so much of that is what we always find, right, is that you're saying, especially when the delivery, the transfer of the information is in a 3-day, sort of boot camp. It's like you're giving them, here's the steps, now go and do it. Then the biggest issue, of course, is their execution of it, right? Getting them to actually do what you would work for them.
And I do offer the follow-up coaching that goes along with both of the programs for 6 or 12 months of, hey, did you get this done? Bob, how are we coming on the newsletter for this month? So there is some of that.
And is that included, or they're extra that they pay for that?
No, that's included.
Oh,
that's
okay.
included,
so
because
that,
especially up front, getting results.
$10,000 1-year program. Yeah.
Essentially, yeah. It's that's sort of the added bonus that I throw in of, not only are you going to be here for 3 days and we're going to create and we're actually going to come up with stuff specifically for you based on my framework, but then also you're going to have me for a year of, hey, I need help with this, I'm stuck, how exactly did this go again? That comes with it as a bonus.
Okay, great. And are those scheduled calls or as required? Like they call you at availability?
I do it as requested. Yeah, I do it as requested, but typically it's me reaching out to them. Typically, the boat business is very seasonal. So you've got, 6 to 8 months, depending on where you are in the country, to do 80% of your business typically. So there's most of the time those calls didn't get used, and it was me reaching out saying, okay, how we doing? How are things going? Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so on the additional units, the 10 extra boats a year, is there do you have like a vending machine type system where somebody could, you have a system that you run this type of ad, this, like taking it all the way from run this ad, send this newsletter, send these emails, run this this follow-up system, and that will deliver people, just like you mentioned, the guy that showed up and said, hey, I want this boat and I'll pay the price?
Yeah, I wouldn't classify it as vending machine dialed in.
Okay.
It's solid there, and just to be, it's not that, it's not your get listings program.
Right, exactly.
To that quality yet. But it's solid in that it will generate leads in a variety of different ways. But the biggest thing in the boat world is if you're looking to buy a boat, there's 3 to 7 dealers in most markets. Down in Florida, there's probably more, but you're going to get the leads because it's such a small market area when it comes to the dealers and broker level in most places. But where I get them is, hey, here's a couple of lead generation tactics, but it's mainly that follow-up system.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying, you're mainly picking it up at Profit Activator 3. They've got people who are coming in already there, and you're saying, let's bridge the gap, or let's convert more of the people who are already calling in and already inquiring. You're kind of picking it up at Profit Activator 3.
Exactly. The video system is the closest thing to the vending machine I have, which is video your inventory, do a call to action, put your USP video, and do your donut on the front and the back, and actually invite them into your dealership or into your Thursday afternoon boat show. Do that, and that will make the phone ring. That's the probably closest thing I have to the vending machine result in the system on the lead generation side.
Okay. And then do you have do you share stuff like that with them? Like a 9-word email type of thing, like a magic trick. I call it a magic trick. Like if I go into any business and they've got a pool of prospects who have not converted, which typically every business has, one of the magic tricks that I have is a 9-word email that revives dead leads. So we can say to people, and actually the funny thing is we did this with a yacht broker who was sending emails to literally a file called dead leads, and sending out an email to these people who had for whatever reason inquired and over 6 months or longer, a year ago, and had not bought and were classified as dead. And he sent out an email that said, hey, Matt, are you still looking for a yacht? That's it.
Yep.
And covered a guy who's under contract now. Yeah, he's under contract now with for $120 million custom boat. That's kind of a cool thing. But I imagine that I know for sure that would be the kind of thing that a boat dealer would be able to use immediately and generate new business. Have you tried anything like that?
Yeah, that exact concept, thanks to you, is now in the system as one of the first steps. And it's also, that language is included in one of the autoresponders in the follow-up system. Are you still considering a pontoon? When whatever boat they were interested in, are you still considering blank, Matt? So I took that directly from you, and that's included in the system. And was that on an I Love Marketing podcast?
Yeah, it was. Absolutely.
Did you have that? Okay, I was going to say I thought I heard that story somewhere before.
Yeah. We've talked about that a lot, and I use that with all kinds. We've used it with, so many different processes. It works for any business there. How many prospects would you say that a typical dealer has? Do they keep good records, or do they have a CRM? Do they have just the index card file, or how good are they at keeping up with the people who actually walk through the door or call?
Not very. Yeah, not very good. Some of them have very basic CRMs.
Mm-hmm. Like an Excel spreadsheet or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah. There's a handful of CRMs that are marine specific. Some of them are, and I mean, I did it myself because it was easier. I used index cards in addition to our CRM for different pieces, but it's not uncommon to have, yellow legal pads and sticky notes is your CRM.
I got
all the way up to some, reasonably advanced autoresponder enabled tracking systems. But the capturing of, hey, I'm calling in and I'm interested in this boat. Oh yeah, why don't you come in on Friday? We're open. That sounds good. Bye. And they don't even capture the contact information. So that's part of my system as well, because that's a major weakness in most salespeople or overall dealerships.
Just in terms of some of the Profit Activator 2 things that you teach the boat dealers, do you have ads or postcards or magazine ads or online ads or anything like that you would show a dealer how to use to get new leads?
I have the video system, and then I have the free report. I call it the official boat buyer's guide. That's a pretty basic report. Those are the two, I would say, the two main ones that you would look at in Activator 2. No, I don't have a display, but I also teach it's more for used boat and brokerage, but the 24-hour recorded messages concept.
Is there any? Do they sell primarily new boats or used boats as well?
Almost everybody sells both, new and used, in some consignment or brokerage, however you want to look at it. And just semantics there on if they own it or not. But the customer doesn't care. Some of them just sell used. So it's either new and used or just used.
Okay. So the reason I'm asking these kind of things is I'm trying to look at how you can predictably up the expected return on the investment that they're going to make, right? Like if they're going to spend $10,000 and you're going to show them how to make an extra $50,000, that's a different, it could be a different thing if there was a way to, also generate some new business,
So one of the things that's on my project calendar is to actually write I call it how to buy a boat book, how to buy a whatever book, that could then be used as a, like you're saying, now it's a more predictable vending machine type system. Here's the 5 ads that go with this book, and we can just adjust it to the marketplace. So that's on my list, but I don't have it yet.
Okay. What would be a typical breakdown for a boat transaction? So, what would be kind of a mid-range or typical range of a boat that people would buy, and how much profit margin would there be in that for the dealership?
Okay, so there's let's say. And it drastically varies by marketplace, but inland lakes, you're going to be looking at 20 to 30,000 on an average size. As you get to the coast, especially down in Florida, where there's some that's kind of the environment. You might get up on average 50, 60 with the dealers that I work with. Now on those, 15% is a very, very doable margin. I depending on the brands that you carry, maybe as high as 20%, on used about 20% typically. That's what you'd be looking for the entire dealership. Their kind of total profit margins is anywhere from 4 to 6% on sales. If that's helpful.
Yeah, like I guess what I'm looking at to break down those numbers here is to see that if somebody's selling a $30,000 boat and they've got a 15% profit margin, there's $4,500 in there, and what would they cheerfully pay for a buyer? Somebody who bought one of those boats. If you're looking at dividing up the pie of that $4,500, knowing that they've got to pay their overhead and their staff, you're saying there's about a 4 to 6% profit margin. What would they allocate of that for sales and marketing allowance?
What in their head, what they've been taught in the industry is to invest about 4% of your sales in marketing as a whole. But if you actually talk to them and you say, okay, what would you give? I'll give a $500 rebate or discount to this customer without blinking an eye. So I would say $500 would be an easy one. Maybe as much as $750. They don't think of it in terms of investing for the cost of a lead, but they would give that discount in a heartbeat. So it's just the context that they look at it. So I think I could make the case of, listen, would you give this customer a $500 discount on this boat if they were negotiating? Oh, sure. I wouldn't even think twice of that. But to invest $500 for a predictable lead system, you just have to change their perspective of that $500.
What do they do primarily for their new, their lead generation right now? Are they sort of just, be known as we've got the boats and we've got a sign up front and we advertise in the Bass Fisher newsletter for Polk County or whatever, and we sponsor the parade or whatever? I mean, they're just doing institutional type of things.
Exactly. I mean, for a lot of them, it's, Grandpappy Smith has been here for 70 years, and that's just known as the boat place.
If you're going to get a boat, there you go. And it's not like there's a boat dealer on every corner. Yeah. It's, some of them are getting pretty good at some online stuff. But then it's just, institutional banner ads of, the manufacturer's logo and their logo. Click to go to their homepage. So that's about all you see there. They'll invest $10,000 to $50,000 to attend the boat show in their region, and they'll do that because that's just what you do. That's where you get most of your leads from, and that's what they've done for 50 years. And then you'll still see a little bit of display ad, but all very much institutional. The dealership I was at, when I brought in my style of marketing with, online videos, with reports, and with newsletters, I mean, that was all just foreign to them, and they thought I was insane, especially my first year when I was, sucking it up. But it's not common to see anything like what you teach and what I teach. And, the good news is, I guess, that part of the advantage is that all the boat owners are licensed and registered, so you can get a list of boat owners, right? I mean, in terms of who owns the used boats.
In 15, 17 states, you can get those lists.
Okay.
The other states, they don't release that information.
I gotcha. Okay.
Or I haven't figured out a way to get it yet. It's not readily available like it is in like 15, 17, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. No, the reason I say that was because we were able, I have a friend here who teaches barefoot water skiing, and we were sending Lane Bowers. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. And so we were sending postcards to registered, inboard boat owners, 16 to 24 feet. And that was a pretty readily available list. So you're saying in about 15 or 17 states, if you're in a state that has that, you can do that. Because I'm wondering
Absolutely.
about, thinking that what would be the turnover rate of somebody who has a boat? How often do people kind of upgrade their boat or get new boats? Is it like cars where they get a new one every 3 or 4 years, or is it something they kind of one time they get a boat and then drive it till it springs a leak?
Well,
or what's the?
Yeah, boating is something that a lot of people get involved in, and they only own one boat. There's probably another. I'll say and this is just ballpark guessing, but that's probably 30% of the market or so. They get a boat, they keep it for 5 years, and the kids graduate school and they sell the boat, or something happens and they get out of it, or they get into horses, or they get into their next activity. There's probably 50% that, if they do continue on to another boat, it's 5 years maybe that they own it. I'd say that's a reasonable average number, 5 to 7 years maybe.
Sure.
And then there's the other ones that's probably another on the back end, 20%.
And is it like is it typical like cars where they might come to a dealer and trade in their boat, or is that how the dealers get their used inventory?
A lot of them, yeah. If it's a smaller dealer and they're not financially able to buy the boat outright, they don't have the resources, then they may say, "Hey, listen, we'll sell your boat for you.
Take it on consignment."
And then when that happens,
whatever.
then you buy the new one. So they'll broker it or consign it for them. Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let me recap what you got so far then. So you're and I understand now why you're focused on sort of Profit Activator 3 forward for them, and converting the number of prospects that they have. How many would a typical boat dealer have in prospects that have not converted, like in a Profit Activator 3 kind of situation?
So let's say 3 years worth of leads. They're probably getting in the busy 6 months, do some 100, 600. So let's say 2,000 leads.
Okay.
Does that math add up? Seems high. Let's say 1,000 leads.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's say 1,000 leads after 3 or 4 years of generating. Now, 500 of those got captured. 500 of them escaped because they didn't capture contact information or write anything down. But let's say there's an opportunity for 1,000 leads after 4 years or so of generating them.
Yeah, so that is one of the things that's going to help them is having some standardized metrics that they can benchmark against, right? So if you can show, like on the real estate stuff that we do, one of the things that gives me an advantage is I have standardized metrics that I can show somebody running our system versus what the reality is on theirs, right? So if they've got 1,000 prospects and they sold 100 boats, then that means they've got a 10%, let's call it, return on prospects, right? So their asset that they have, the portfolio that they have, is these 1,000 prospects, right? And each year they're converting. If they sold 100 boats this year, they got a 10% return on prospects. So what if you can show that using your system that somebody's able to get a 15% return on prospects, or some number higher than that 10%, and they may even have less than 10%, it gives people a framework, so they know kind of what their aspiration is, to kind of know where to go. Then that would be a before unit metric, and in the during unit, the metric that we use on the real estate side is very similar. Being a broker or a dealer in something where there's a buy and a sell side, the boat business is very similar to the real estate business in that way. So when you're talking about increasing their margin, I'm assuming one of the things that you're showing them how to do is to get the upgrades and the ancillary purchases and the maintenance programs and warranties and all the stuff that can go along with it. Am I right?
Yeah, that's part of it. Absolutely.
Okay. And what else goes into improving that number?
One of the biggest factors is how do you present price? Because it's very much a negotiation game. I mean, the consumer comes in thinking it's like buying a car, so they're already nervous that it's going to be just a battle. And so a lot of the sales guys, let's say the MSRP is $50,000, they'll sell it for $40,000, and you come in and they say, Dean, how much is this boat? Well, Dean, this boat's $40,000. And well, okay, so now you're starting your negotiation from 40 and you want to get it for 35. What I teach them to do is, hey, this boat's $50,000. Here at Matt's Marine, we discount it down to $40,000 up front because our customers appreciate that. Now you started at 50 and now you go from 40, maybe you go down to 39.5, but the prospect isn't so that's a big part of it. And the other is just, creating value with, my client that's had the best success does a 7-day money back guarantee. If you don't like the boat, we'll buy it back within 7 days. And putting pieces like that in the sales message. So it's not just, hey, you're looking strictly at the fiberglass or the aluminum. And, while I'm comparing it to a guy down the street, that's a cheaper model and it's really hard to tell the difference. So putting some other things that are on the dealership value side to build value and to make that negotiation less price sensitive, in addition to, have a sheet at the end of, do you want the extended warranty? Do you want the service plan? Do you want to store it with us? And any of those other products that they offer, and a combination of all those, to get $500 on a $30,000 boat is pretty easy. Even if you just do one or two of them.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. And then in the after unit, do you have a metric for them to measure their, I call it return on relationship, where of the people who've already bought a boat, some percentage of them, imagine in the after, there's the opportunity to do the servicing, storage, just like you said, the repeat business, referral business. Do you have strategies to teach them how to maximize their after unit as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a follow-up system after the boat is delivered and sold, asking for repeat business, offering service specials, offering reasons to come back into the dealership for gear or for events, or any time you could, as you would imagine, anytime you can get them back into the store after they own a boat, it's pretty easy to get them to buy a cooler or to get a T-shirt or to, look at the new wakeboard. I mean, that's pretty simple once you just get them back in. So events and things like that for customer appreciation stuff. But I don't frame, and you are pointing this out perfectly in my head, I don't have metrics. It's all kind of ambiguous. I'm going to help you get more repeat referral business, service.
And there's the thing. That's the big. That's the big thing that can make the shift. Is that when you have set metrics. So I know, like with our realtors, I've got documented case studies for years of people. What we look for in their in the real estate agent's after unit is we look for a 20% annual yield from their relationship portfolio. So that would be all the people that they've helped, all of their clients, the people that, and the people that know them, like them, and trust them. So we have a strategy, a tool called the World's Most Interesting Postcard that we mail to that top 150. And on the back of the card every month is a referral stimulator. Just a different thing. Just a quick note in case you hear someone talking about this, buying their first home. Lots of times that back to, people want to buy their home before the end of the year. If you hear someone talk about it, give me a call or text me, and I'll get you a copy of our 6 Steps to Homeownership book to give to them. I'll give them all the steps involved in buying a home. That kind of, every month sending those things. What we're looking for is measuring that return on relationships. So if they've got 150 people and in the last 12 months, they got 15 repeat and referral transactions, that would be a 10% return on relationship. And our goal, the benchmark that we're looking for, is to get them to a 20% return on relationship. And so we've seen it now, just documented case after documented case of people doing no other change, but sending the world's most interesting postcard and getting a, 50 or 100% or more increase in the amount of referrals that they get, depending on what they were doing with their clients afterwards. And that's probably what you find with these dealerships. They either don't have any communication with them, or some of them have real orchestrated, nice systems that they use to keep in touch with people.
Right.
So the reason sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say very few of them have that in place. How have you coached your folks to keep track of that? And
so we measure it. So
stuff.
Yeah, of course. So the first thing, they have to know who their top 150 are. These are the people in the real estate world. We teach them these are the people that, if they saw them at the grocery store, they'd recognize them by name and they'd stop and have a conversation with them. Most people have 150 people like that. Now, that would be a strategy that would work for a boat salesperson, right? That the salesperson has a sphere of influence of people that they know. So that's kind of like, if a typical dealership may have, I don't know how many sales people would they have? Maybe 2 or 3 sales?
Yeah, 1 to 3. 1 to 3.
1 to 3. Okay. So that would be the kind of thing like helping them tap into their sphere of influence, that if they hear someone talking about buying a boat or teaching the kids to water ski or going fishing, taking up fishing or tubing or, any of those things that might be a stimuli for somebody buying a boat, you want your clients, or not clients, but the sphere of influence to be on the lookout for you, right? To remember that you sell boats. And whenever somebody's thinking about it, that they will introduce you to that person. That's going to help them that's going to help them get referrals from the people who know them, like them, and trust them. And that kind of thing, I mean, if you looked at that as, a case study, and this is what I would really encourage you to do now is to start documenting the stuff that's happening so that you've got ways to show people this is what happens, right? We started here and we went, this is the result that we were able to get. And a lot of times you can backdate this stuff in your mind. Like if I ask people, and I could ask you the same thing, if you had 10 people, the last 10 people who've gone through your training, what result did they get? It's always a question to ask yourself is what did they, if I was saying, I'm only going to get paid when you get the result, how would you have done on your last 10,
Okay.
And just anecdotally, do you think, just looking back and thinking about the last 10, if 50,000 is the over-under, what would you be on the last 10 people? How many got over 50 and how many got under 50?
I would say just based on their happiness and wanting to do additional stuff and our conversations, I would say at least 6 or 7 of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Not knowing anything about the specific revenues because I haven't thought about tracking that with them.
Well, there you go. And that might be a good thing. And then if you looked at the 3 or 4 that didn't, and that's a good rate, by the way, right now, like getting 60 or 70% of the people to get a 5x ROI on what you taught them. And the truth is that ROI that's just first year return because they're still going to use the same systems next year. If
Absolutely.
You chart that out over 5 years, there's going to be a big multiple of it. Do people pay you upfront or do they pay you monthly?
For the programs are all upfront with a year guarantee. I should say the boot camp is a little bit different. I do the boot camp a guarantee of if you're not happy, if you think I'm a fraud after the first day, then I'll give you all your money back and pay for your flight home kind of deal.
And so it's a kind of not a performance guarantee per se, but you're convinced or not guarantee, right? You're convinced that this is going to work. Yeah.
You spend a day with me and we go through the first day worth of stuff. And if you're like, this isn't, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, here you go, here's your money back. But obviously nobody's ever taken me up on that.
Sure. Because you show them, it's pretty convincing.
Yeah. They see a lot of holes in the bucket.
Sure. And then on your Profit Activator 3, which is what you mentioned is probably the big opportunity for you, your Profit Activators in converting your leads into people who will pay you $10,000 or $12,000. What is the sort of conversion rate that you have right now? How are you doing on your before unit? How does your before unit work?
Oh, I'm doing awful. It's terrible. My before unit, I'm bringing in a pretty consistent flow of leads in the off season, and with the speaking that I do, I get big flood of leads during those. So I would say I probably have 500 or 600 leads that have come in from one form or another. With that, there are several non-decision makers. So the marketing person has called in, or somebody that sells a marine widget that found me from my articles or somewhere along the line. So I'd say of those, probably 400 are legit good leads. And looking at about 40 sales, not all of them on the high end. Some of them have been the smaller programs, but yeah, so pretty in my mind, pretty terrible.
So part of the thing that you've got here is that do you have these? Do you have a list of your prospects? Like, do you have how big is the list of people that you could send an email to or send a postcard to today?
There's of just known targets, about 3,000. Yeah, known targets about 3,000 with. Yeah.
Have you done that? Do you do any kind of postcards, direct mail, email, any?
Yeah, a combination of. I've done just emails driving to a webinar, emails driving to like a strategy session, an hour consultation that turns into kind of a sales pitch. I've done direct mail postcards to them. I've done lead generation mailers where I offer my book for a discounted price or a free ebook. And I've done those to that list of in usually groups of 500 to 1,000, because I was trying to figure out what segment of the market was interested in me. Was it the little guy? Was it the big guy? Was it the medium guy?
And well, good. What do you know about that so far?
It tends to be the small to medium guy that are, and I haven't figured out how to find this, but that are on the second or third generation of ownership. The 40 years in the business, still control of things with the son or daughter position to take over, and haven't had any success with that person. The recently took it over from the previous generation, have had good success with those people. I just haven't figured out how to find out, and it sort of makes sense when I think about it that, hey, they just took over from dad or from father-in-law, and he was doing it all wrong. I'm smarter. I'm going to do it my way, and this is one of the things I want to bring in.
Right.
More open to change is kind of what the psychology I think that's going on.
Yes. Yeah. Modern marketing for boat dealers. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, that's a thing, right? Somebody's how to get up to speed on that. Do people mostly take your courses during the off season, or when do they? Is it kind of like farming in a way, where they're kind of rich in the summer and poor in the winter, and
I look at it like tax. For the tax people is don't contact them from boat show season, which starts anywhere from January, February, but kind of my line is sort of March. From March to, and we're getting into, all right, they're hitting Labor Day. Sales are pretty much done completely, but they hit their big sales from March to September, and then depending on where in the country they may start get winterization and haul out business. But from that August time frame to the February again, it's sort of now I can sell, and I'm in that time right now.
Now, is that time? Is that you saying you can sell now because they have money, or is it because now is the best time to, really make a difference? When is
it's more they have the time. It's more a function of they have time to have the conversation. To my mailing. This is when I first got started. I sent some stuff. Kind of being in it myself, I knew, well, you're going 100 miles an hour from those time frames. And I did some cold calling just into the dealers, and I would call in June, and they're like, "Do you know anything about this business? I'm going 100 miles an hour right now. I don't have time to talk to you about anything. I don't have time to learn anything new and create systems." So they're flush with cash now, but they've got to make it through the winter without anything. They've got the time finally to think about it, talk about it, but also to implement. So it's all of those things.
So I think there might be an opportunity for you to test out an approach here to one of the things I did with the real estate agents with our money making websites project was having what I called Project Cyrus, where we were setting it up so that we would take them through the whole training program. We would build their website, build all the systems, teach them all the systems that they needed to know, and then they would pay when they got their first transaction. And immediately that removed any of the friction in getting started. And so I was asking earlier about magic tricks for you. Are there things that you can do that would create an immediate win for them, that would kind of get them some cash that would help that they could document as I got this because of this guy. So they're almost like playing with house money, I'll read you something because this is just so perfectly timely. Yesterday afternoon, I'm driving to Orlando, and I got an email from a guy who we have a system called gogoagent.com for realtors, which is the autoresponders, landing pages, toll-free voicemail, texting, CRM, and all of my getting listings program, finding buyers program, getting referrals, all of those things wrapped into it, right? And I offer people a 30-day free trial, no credit card, nothing. Just come on in, try it out for 30 days. So this guy emails me just yesterday. He says, "Hi, Dean, I have some exciting results to share with you. I researched and compiled data from my MLS on 20 neighborhoods with the highest turnover rates, goal of generating 50 seller leads within 30 days. Launched the Getting Listings postcard campaign on 3 neighborhoods. I sent 400 postcards to a neighborhood with a 16% turnover rate, of which 20 people responded for the report. 2 of those 20 asked for the pinpoint price analysis, of which 1 converted into a listing appointment where I secured the listing contract. Then he planned out a strategic launch campaign for the new listing, which is the things that we talk about in GoGo Agent. Got collected names, emails, and phone numbers of over 20 buyers, received an offer within 24 hours, accepted within 72, and we're set to close early next month. All along, I've been tracking every detail because I always tell people, to track everything, right? Total spend $1,387, total commission $7,854, and I'm still only in the 30-day trial of GoGo Agent. I suspect I'll be able to convert a few of these buyers into clients and match them to the other 19 sellers in the neighborhood. I'd say your system works really well, Dean. Now I'm just playing with house money. See, those are the things that's what I talk about, is if you can get people ahead of the game, that's really where, now this guy is there any reason that he would, at $79 a month for GoGo Agent, now he's made already 100 times that month. If it's $1,079 a month, he's made 100 months worth of return on that without even having paid the first month yet.
Yeah.
So that's where I was asking you if there's some way that you can help people get the result without their risk being or their barrier to entry being the $10,000, right, or $12,000 up front.
Right.
And the good news is that where you've got one of the biggest assets that you have is your cost of getting the result for somebody is virtually nothing. You don't have any hard costs involved in delivering a virtual program to get somebody a result, right? You're sharing a detailed plan of what to do. And so one of the things that you have to kind of keep in mind is that this was a big insight that I had when I started asking that question, right? Like, I'd really seriously think about this for you, is asking that question: what would I do if I only got paid if they get a result? And it just starts to think about, well, I know that, first of all, this strategy is a surefire thing. This is a guaranteed result getter. And if they just do this, I know they're going to get that result. What it also gets you to think about is this person is the highest likelihood person that's going to have the best results, right? If you've already identified, like when I started doing this with the realtors, I identified that where people run into a challenge or people have don't get the result is that they're maybe in a market that's too small, or they're there's somebody who's just brand new to real estate and they don't even have a clue how to work with people if they had people to work with, or they're too busy as a real estate agent that they're going to delegate this to somebody else on their team. They don't personally work with buyers and sellers. So I found out that our best thing is I really created this crystal clear picture of who our ideal client is. And I would send out a PS in my ongoing communications with them, my weekly email to them, and say, PS, I'm starting a new pilot program next month, and I'm looking for some very specific people. If you live in a market of more than 20,000 people, you've been in real estate for at least 1 to 2 years, you personally work with buyers and sellers, you've got time to work with 2 new buyers a month starting next month, and you're friendly and coachable, and you can keep a secret, just respond to this email, put Project Cyrus in the subject line, and I'll be, tell me a bit about your business, and I'll be selecting people this weekend. That got this flood of people who will say, oh, I'm this, and they go down the list of all the reasons that they qualify for this.
Yeah.
And it was just, there's zero friction in that, right? Like this is where I say my biggest insight out of all of that was that it's, sometimes it's less expensive to get somebody a result than it is to convince them to give you money to get the result.
Right.
Like it would take you less time. It would take you less time and effort and expense and resources to get somebody a result than it is to convince them to give you $12,000 to get the result.
Right. I think that's genius. I've thought about it before, and I keep getting hung up on, all right, how do I ensure that they do it? Because they're not going to get the success if they don't do it. Or do I need to get to work and say, I've got to? It has to be such a brain dead simple, easy strategy that they can't hardly screw it up. And I've got to do the work to.
Yeah. Now, isn't it interesting how your whole tonality changes, your physiology and your attitude changes, where now because your money is on the line, you feel like, okay, now I really need to make this so simple that anybody could do it because my money's on the line. Whereas when you're getting the money up front, you take a more laissez-faire attitude about it and you say, well, I mean, I've laid it all out for them. I can't do it for them.
I mean, be fine.
If they just did it, everything would be fine. And you kind of do that external blame shifting.
Yep.
Right. And that's comforting. Right.
Yeah.
It's comforting to think that you're doing that. But the reality is you're going to make so much more money if you can help people actually get the result, regardless of whether you go all the way and make it a contingent relationship. And you may be, it's going to help the way that you think about it, even if you just ask those questions silently. If you don't articulate it that this is the way we do it, just thinking like that, like I heard your whole tone of voice change, everything changed when you were now working on your behalf to ensure that you're going to get paid.
Yep.
It's different.
Yeah.
Right?
I felt, I said it and I was almost like, oh my God, that if my clients heard me, like I got to make something that actually works easily and simply. Like that's kind of, oh, hey, that's right. That is important. Because it's always been in my head.
Like, everything.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And saying it out loud, I mean, I've heard you talk about this before, but actually talking about it and saying I got to make something that's simple and easy for them. Kind of makes me sound like a dumbass.
Well, and I think, you probably, the best way to kind of experiment with that in a safe kind of way is to, do a pilot program that you're not announcing what's happening, right? You're not broadcasting to everybody that this is what we're doing, but you hand select. Maybe you've got people right now who are on the fence, who've inquired about your training and are maybe hemming and hawing, and that part of the reason is it's the money, that there's that delay, that they're just not convinced yet, that maybe you have some kind of off-season program, that you do. Like, I'm assuming your resolve to the fact that they're not buying as much in the off-season as they do kind of immediately after the season, kind of thing. Like you just said, your go zone is the fall, and it's not January and February and March, right? Where they're kind of conserving and waiting now till they get to boat season,
Right. They're saving up energy to get into the heat of it.
Yeah, and I think that if you take that, part of the reason I called that project Cyrus is because I read about this guy, Cyrus McCormick, who invented the reaper and in the 1800s. And he had this machine that would allow a farmer to do the work of 14 men. But the machine was expensive and the farmers couldn't afford it. So what he did was he let them use the machine for the season and pay him at the harvest. Yeah. So he was like deferring his payment until they got the result, which was more profit because they cut back on all of their labor, and then they had the money to pay for the machine. The same kind of thing, it's like I think what you'll find is that if you do this as a test program with people who are kind of on the fence in a period where you wouldn't normally do a program, and have them be able to pay you on some kind of a deferment or some kind of a pay as you profit type of program, that your people are going to be beating down your door. Every business on every level has 100% availability to take money into the business.
Yep. And doing this, to me, my initial thought is, all right, I need to drive these people to have a conversation with me so I can kind of hear what they're saying and develop it into a system down the line. But initially have it be that manual conversation of, here's what this is all about. Here's what I expect from you. You're going to need to put in some effort. We're going to do it together. We're a team here. But I'm going to take all the risk. All you have to do is put forth some of the effort.
Right.
Does that sound right?
Step one for you is to think it through on paper first, right? Like to start, just ask yourself that question. If I was only going to get paid if they get the result, what would I do? And that's going to immediately clear out the fluff, and it's going to immediately get you focused on the thing that's actually going to make the biggest difference. And then if there's anything that you can do for them, you're going to figure out a way to facilitate that. Because if it is something that's required to get done, but you could do it, you're going to figure out a way to make that happen.
Yeah,
that way,
the magic email is one that is in my very first module of, hey, pull out your old leads and get this out like day one. Yeah, so that's a simple one. But the next would be, one of the postcards to their current boat owners that have owned for 3 to 5, 3 years or more, that are still owning that same boat. I mean, one of those two is going to hit something. For sure.
Yes. See, there you go. So those are two things for sure that you've got, that now they're already ahead. That makes a big difference.
I've been just racking my brain on what I'm missing. And I kept coming back to my sales skills are weak because I do a lot of it on the phone. But putting it in this context, and, it doesn't take much sales skill to give something away.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's just
I've got
such a
those.
clean. And you know what? People are far less attached to future money than present money. They're much more generous and optimistic for their future. I mean, that's why you look at everything. I mean, we're in the middle of 2016 right now, and you're already hearing furniture ads saying no payments till 2018, which sounds like a million years from now, right? I'll be rich by then. but I want all this furniture now.
Yep. All right. So those, focus on those two, and I think create another one or two that's depending on the market. And the other thing is, depending on the timing that they do it, this will work a lot better in March. Any of my strategies will work better in March, April, May than they will in October, November.
Sure.
Do you think I need to consider that when I start them into the program? Or?
Yeah, you start looking, I think you look at all of this and say, what would I do if I'm only going to get paid when they get the result? When's the best time to start, right? What is the, because some of it's going to be based on a calendar,
Yeah. Okay. So I've got, Dean, this is fantastic.
Good. I'm glad.
I was excited. I was excited that you selected me to be on. And I'll just a quick thing is, I wasn't planning on submitting to be on the show. I was like, he's got so many coaching clients. He's got so many folks that are in his system. He's not gonna pick a guy that's having such problems and so stuck. But man, this has been fantastic. I appreciate it. I recommend everybody to put your information in, as you just never know. You just never know
awesome.
who may
great.
send you an email out of the blue.
Yeah, well, there's the thing. It's that's the great thing about this kind of podcast is there's so many people who are listening who are in exactly that situation, right? They're just getting things going, or they might think, oh, I'm a small business, and that it all works. It works on small businesses and big businesses. So I just love applying them. I appreciate you being so open and willing to share, and let's stay in touch. I want to hear about how this all works out.
Yes, I will absolutely do that. And Dean, I certainly appreciate all your insight. This has been fantastic.
Thanks, Matt.
Now it's time for me to get to work, I suppose.
And there we have it. Another episode of More Cheese, Less Whiskers. If you want to keep the conversation going, you can download the More Cheese, Less Whiskers book at morecheeselesswhiskers.com. If you'd like to get a book out into the world in the simplest, easiest, fastest way possible, go to 90minutebook.com and download a copy of the 90-minute book, and we can help you get your book out into the world. That's it for this time. Talk to you next time.